Shiramiya Kinzo disappeared from his study unnoticed. Kinzo's study has everything from a bed to a toilet to a bathtub, so it is extremely rare for him to go outside. However, he does occasionally go out for a walk on a whim without telling anybody, and his disappearance invariably leads to a huge uproar throughout the house. He usually comes back as soon as he gets hungry. Usually. Lunch ended, and the servants removed the tableware and went to the kitchen. The wind and rain. Now the weekend.
Muted, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
It's muted.
I know. I fixed it.
No, like
Oh, swarm.
yeah.
I forgot I did that. The wind and rain neither weakened nor strengthened, and the island remained cut off from the outside world. At first it seemed as though Natsuki planned to stop anyone from taking a step outside the room, but when it came time to prepare lunch, she finally realized this would be impossible. However, in order to avoid having anyone alone in the kitchen, she told the 3 servants to go together. Because of that, the servants were the first ones given the right to leave the stuffy parlor, which had been packed with 11 people. Since breakfast had immediately followed that terrible incident, preventing most of us
from eating much. Everyone tore into their lunches in silence.
I will wash the dishes, so you can rest a while. Kanon-kun, Genji-san, do you want something to drink?
I don't need anything. Canon?
I don't need anything either. You two must have been so busy and so early in the morning. It's no wonder you're worn out.
I guess, okay.
Well, it said all of us, but I don't know. Most of us, which made me think it was you. But also, Battler doesn't seem to be here.
Yeah, so you can take it, I guess.
The only noise was that of Kumasawa washing the dishes, which resounded throughout the kitchen. Genji and Kanon sat in some chairs. You know, because they're furniture.
Yeah.
Furniture.
For sure.
It's like when you stack chairs.
Yeah. A short distance away, their eyes lightly closed. Just as Kumasawa had said, those two had probably built up a great deal of fatigue. But that didn't mean they could let it show in front of their relatives. Avoiding that was one of their virtues. After the silence had continued for some time, Kanon opened his mouth and muttered, Shannon, why did she have to die in such a horrible way?
Forget about the manner of her death. It was nothing more than bad luck.
You're right. It was nothing more than bad luck. They both fell silent once again. Kanon's expression was filled with grief.
Yeah, that's right.
Kumasawa.
Oh, yeah. To think that Shannon-chan's actually dead. I can't believe it. Poor thing. Not being able to see her again feels like a lie. I just wanted to see her smiling face one last time. Kumasawa spoke with her back facing them. After all, Kumasawa hadn't seen Shannon's corpse, so she had no trouble mentioning Shannon's face. When Kanon heard those words, it reminded him again of how only half of Shannon's face had been left, and his grieving expression twisted even further. Why did Beatrice-sama do that to Shannon? If she wanted a sacrifice, there were plenty of others to choose from. Why?
It was nothing more than bad luck. If we were less lucky, you or I might have been lying out there instead of Shannon. Or it could have been someone else entirely. Everything is left to fate.
Genji-sama, you said the door to Madame's room was stained with traces of something like blood, right? The same substance that was painted on the shutter?
Indeed. It was an unsettling mark. Almost as though someone with blood-stained fingers had been trying to pull out the doorknob. No scratch, though, through the door. Oh, wait, no, let me refer that. No, scratch through the door. That sort of unpleasant mark.
So does this mean Beatrice-sama came to visit Madame's room and tried to open the door, but couldn't? Genji thought back to the time that he had seen those traces of blood on the door to Natsuhi's room. With the substance sticking to the door around the doorknob, and the marks of something scratching against the door, it had definitely appeared as though someone had tried to open the door but couldn't. How did the madam avoid being chosen as a sacrifice? If only she'd been chosen, Shen wouldn't have had to die. Just then, a loud, sharp noise came in from the hall. Both of them turned around surprised.
That's a pretty interesting chat you're having there. Let me join in too.
Before any of the servants realized it, Battler was standing in the doorway to the kitchen.
Blocks your path.
fucking like
Blocks
does
your
that
path.
like
Yeah.
he does that like cicada block.
Jesus.
Battler-sama, how rude of us. Genji-san and Kanon-kun stood up surprised and hastily bowed.
But I didn't care about stuff like that. I was more concerned with continuing their discussion.
That was a pretty good transition, actually.
That was pretty good.
I told them I was going to the bathroom, so they let me go. I thought I'd suffocate if I was locked up in that room any longer. I was about to come ask you guys for some water, but then I overheard something pretty interesting. You don't need to bow your heads or anything. Please, let me hear the rest.
That just now wasn't really...
I've been listening to you for a while. Don't try to hide it now. So I'll ask you directly. Who is this Beatrice? She's supposed to be a witch from a kid's story, but it doesn't look that way now. Cannon averted his gaze. It was obvious that he didn't want to talk about this, which only made me want to ask even more. While making an effort to smile, I grabbed the collar of his shirt. Last night, this would have been none of my business. But after this morning, everything's changed. Now, the dad and the rest have been killed, this is totally my business. I have the right to listen to this suspicious story, don't I? I glared into Cannon's eyes. He continued to avert his gaze in apparent pain. Sorry to stop.
Battler's about to start battling.
Since there was a big
Sure,
difference
yeah,
in our
fight
heights, Cannon had to stand on his toes, and it looked like it hurt a bit.
5'11 versus 6'0.
Battler-san, please let go of him.
But Battler's 5'11".
Kanon-san isn't really hiding anything.
Then you won't have any problems talking about it, right? It's lonely being out of the loop, you know? When I tried to further twist up his collar, Genji cut between us and spoke. In his expression were faint traces that he'd made up his mind to do something. Apparently, he had no intention of hiding it.
I can tell you about it. Cannon only hesitated because you might have taken it badly, Battler-sama.
Hesitating, huh? Not very manly of you. Whatever. Whatever it is you're talking about, it's even more unpleasant having to keep it secret. Tell me about it. It's not like we have anything better to do before tomorrow comes. A slightly spooky story might be the best way to avoid getting bored. Genji-san and Kanon-kun looked at each other, then nodded as though they decided to talk.
Understood. Please, ask us anything. We will talk.
Right. Then I'll ask. Who in the world is Beatrice? All I know is that she's a witch who lives in the forest of Rokenjima. I've heard it's a story grandmother or someone invented to keep people out of the dangerous forest. Is that wrong?
No, it isn't wrong. It's as you say. Beatrice is a witch who dwells in the forest of Rokenjima.
Battler-sama. I don't expect you to believe this all of a sudden, but Beatrice-sama exists. She is a real person, the one who gave the master a vast amount of gold, and who worked by his side for many years.
Huh? Oh, come on. Is grandfather paying you to repeat everything he says? I laughed like it was a joke, but neither Genji nor Kanon-kun laughed. Not even Kumasawa Bachan, who was avoiding my eyes, flustered as he started washing the dishes. So, unfortunately, I was the only one laughing. Painfully, bitterly. I see. That's why Genji-san refused to mention it. If you really mean it, of course I'd take it badly. So you're saying that a person named Beatrice actually exists?
Yes. She has been working for the master since before the mansion was built on this island. She has most likely been working for him even longer than I have.
What do you know? Kyrie-san's theory was off. Grandfather really did have a confidant called Beatrice. Is that person on the island now?
Yes, I believe that she is here.
That's a vague way to say it. I guess that means you haven't seen her face today or yesterday.
That is correct. It is extremely difficult to say, but,
Kanon-kun once again dropped his gaze, avoiding my eyes. Come on, don't just stop there. That's like freezing an inch before the blow, right? Jesus. I urged him on jokingly again. However, it looked like Kanon was still confused as to whether he should speak or not. Then Kumasawa Bachan whispered.
You cannot see her face, because Beatrice-sama has no form.
It's gonna come out real creepy. She has no... What did you say?
Beatrice-sama has no body. Therefore, unless Beatrice-sama wishes it, common people like us are not able to see her form.
I have heard that the portrait shows what Beatrice-sama looked like, back when she had a human form. It seems he yearned for that figure so much, he would often stand in front of that portrait. Beatrice-sama sometimes shows herself by changing her form into glittering butterflies. On the rare occasion that you spot them somewhere in the mansion, there is a rule that you absolutely mustn't chase after them. It is whispered that you will meet with disaster if you do. In fact, there was a servant who broke that rule and quit because of a great injury.
Wait a sec, are you kidding me? Are you all serious about this?
Battler-sama, Beatrice-sama has already arrived. Such language may be unwise.
Beatrice-sama does not like it when she is profaned. If you doubt her existence, you will surely meet with disaster. Battler-san, you will probably find this topic unpleasant. But you know what? Beatrice-sama does exist.
She exists. Beatrice-sama hates people who doubt that.
Oh, sorry, who's this?
Kennen.
Okay. Can you tell, Battler-sama? Beatrice-sama has already arrived here.
Come on, quit it. I'm weak against that stuff. Enough with the cheap threats. However, there was no trace of a joke in the eyes of the three servants. On the surface, I laughed and tried to look unconcerned, but I was quickly starting to sober up. Their eyes were also sobering up fast.
Battler-san, I beg that you stop profaning Beatrice-sama. Please trust me.
Kumasawa-chan, who was usually cheerful and would always tease people, now spoke with a totally serious face. Well, even if you say she exists, I don't see anything. Are you trying to say she's standing right next to me or something? Quit joking around.
Fork.
Oh, maybe we should switch this one.
Just then, that unnerving laugh suddenly filled the kitchen. Sorry. When I turned around, Maria was standing there by the entrance. But her expression and the feeling about her, her presence, felt exactly the same as the servants. This song. Whether your wavelength matches or not is determined at birth. Battler, you were born with a mismatched wavelength. That's why you can't see her. That's why you can't meet with her. And that's why you can't talk to her. You're the type Beatrice hates the most. Maria laughed like it was funny, but it sounded extremely eerie. It was almost like she was laughing at me because I alone didn't understand. Do you want to know about Beatrice? Beatrice is a 1,000-year-old witch. With all the demons at her command, she could harness the power of alchemy to create the Philosopher's Stone and a vast quantity of gold. Grandfather built up all the vast wealth of the Ushiromiya family by making a contract with her. Yesterday, I read Beatrice's letter, didn't I? That was real. Well, I guess it's pointless for me to try and force you to believe. After all, it looks like you were born without a trace of the sixth sense. What are you talking about? Witches? Demons? We told you about that. I heard about it from Beatrice herself. Maria kept doing that unpleasant laugh. However, the servants who watched over this didn't even blink. She heard it from that witch in the portrait adorning the entrance hall. Maria kept on laughing in a weird voice, as though this was nothing more or less than the truth. Maria, it might be rude to ask, but I'll ask one more time, okay? Who gave you that letter yesterday? I got it from Beatrice. How many times must I tell you before you understand? You don't get it, do you? You can't see it. You can't believe it, can you? Just then, Maria's laughter suddenly stopped. Battler, you still don't understand. Beatrice-sama exists. She exists, you say, but where? Like I said, Beatrice-sama exists here. That's right. Now that I think about it, I've been feeling for a while now that the servants' eyes haven't been pointed in quite the right direction. I figured they were just staring absent-mindedly, but that wasn't the case. The four here, Genji-san, Kanin-kun, Kumasawa-san, and Maria, everyone except me, was looking at a spot right behind me. Holding my breath tightly, I slowly looked around my shoulder, but of course, there wasn't anyone there. I've known that the whole time. However, everyone in the room except me was focusing on that point as if there was someone there. I kind of ruined the tension there.
How many people are in Battler?
Beatrice is the mighty golden witch who has lived for 1,000 years. But since she can't show her form to humans of the wrong wavelength, she can't talk to them. And you know what? That's really sad. It means she truly despises it when people like you, who are born without a fragment of the ability needed to sense magic, deny that she exists. You're lucky, Battler. Good thing I gave you that charm yesterday, right? Don't you realize what kind of curse Beatrice would have put on you by now if you hadn't been carrying it around? You really are lucky, Battler. Oh, that scorpion keychain. I thought that was just some cheap gift or something, but are you saying it really had some power? If it weren't for that, you'd be lying in the storehouse as a sacrifice with your face crushed by now. You're so lucky, Battler. I see. So if it weren't for that, I'd been killed by now. Battler, why don't you believe in Beatrice? Even though she exists. Right now, over there, look. Hey, I'll bet you want to believe it now. Believe it. And thank me for giving you that charm. If it weren't for that, you'd be in the storehouse right now. But then, maybe you would have saved someone else in exchange, right? Right then, I burst into laughter. Playing witches had been pretty fun up until a second ago, but unfortunately, that last one seemed to be too much for me to gloss over. And it's all useless, isn't it, Maria? If that's true, then I'm sorry, but it's all useless. When Maria saw me suddenly start laughing, she stopped. Even though she didn't understand what I was laughing at, she realized it wouldn't be pleasant for her. I thought it might hurt you, so I didn't say it earlier, but... Well, I thought I put that charm you gave me in my pocket, but I must have dropped it somewhere. So the charm can't be the only reason I'm alive now, and even though I should have been cursed by the witch, I'm perfectly fine. Sorry, but I don't believe in things I don't see with my own eyes. Sixth sense? Wavelengths? Magic sensitivity? Sorry, but I don't believe in fake stuff like that. When I hear the girls in class start talking about how good or bad their ability to sense the supernatural is, it pisses me off. I don't know how much grandfather is paying you, but if you're trying to talk to me into joining some cult, believe me, you won't be able to do it that easily.
Battler-sama.
You guys are free to believe whatever you want. However, when it comes to things I believe, the one who decides is always me. Sorry, but I can't believe in something as shady as Beatrice until I've seen her with my own eyes. I spoke forcefully and sharply. Then Maria started cackling again. Well, that's just fine, isn't it? Eventually, even people like you with totally mismatched wavelengths will be able to see Beatrice. Very soon, she will revive. Beatrice will revive. Once that happens, she's promised to talk with me and play with me a lot. There'll be absolutely no need for you to doubt us, or for us to force you to believe. She will appear very soon. You ever just talk to yourself? I love that scene.
I'm highly concerned.
What the fuck was that, Scott?
Actually, let me get water.
After a meal, some people tend to head to the bathroom, while others prefer to relax for a bit. It seemed that several people had left the parlor. Oh.
Just like I did when I went to the kitchen to drink some water, like I'm doing now. In the end, Natsuhi reluctantly retracted her order that everyone remain packed in the parlor.
I don't like that she said that when she's holding a gun.
On the condition that no one headed out on their own or strayed too far.
Oh,
In any case, even if 11 people are shut up in the same room starting early in the morning, the air will start to stagnate.
Don't head out on your own.
Also, quite some time had passed, so everyone was starting to recover from the shock of that morning, and their sense of danger might have been weakening too. However, it was a certain fact that 6 people had been killed inside this mansion, so no one was completely negligent. So whenever they went out into the hallway for a breath of fresh air trying to act tough, they would quickly get scared of standing there, isolated, and would eventually return to the parlor. I guess it's like the north wind and the sun. If you force someone to stay shut in, they'll resist, but if you tell them to do whatever they want, they'll come back obediently. People really do like not doing what they're told. When the servants finished cleaning up the meal, they returned obediently to the parlor, just as Natsuhi had told them to, and sat on a sofa near the entrance, patiently awaiting orders. Maria, almost as though she suddenly finished playing witches, had returned to the pure Maria I knew well, saying, "Ooh, ooh!" What in the world happened back there? I hadn't felt even an atom of the presence of this person called Beatrice, who was supposedly standing behind me, invisible. However, it felt like I'd glimpsed a little bit of that presence inside Maria. Hello, George.
You're right. When Maria starts talking about witches, her personality changes. Battler-kun, you also saw it down by the beach yesterday, right?
You mean that scorpion keychain? No, I don't mean like when her feelings were hurt. I'm talking about her having a dual personality or something.
Yeah, that happens sometimes too. That thing Maria did when she was talking about the magic circle does happen every now and then. It's freaky though.
Apparently, Jessica had spotted that Maria a few times. I just happened to catch it at a bad moment and was pretty freaked out seeing it for the first time. So what is that? Does Maria have a dual personality or something? Or are you saying that her spiritual sense really is that strong? She's being possessed by a spirit or whatever?
No, I don't think it's that. Haven't you ever experienced it?
You know, that thing.
When you were small, and didn't you ever want to be someone other than yourself?
When humans are born... fuck, Battler philosophy. When humans are born, no one has any individuality. However, when they reach their growth period, their sense of self starts to be born. They want to be different from other people. But since everyone is in the same class, is learning the same things at the same rate, and being forced into the same lifestyle, of course they aren't going to find anything that makes them different from everyone else around them. Once they realize that, the first thing they do is start breaking the rules, in what they call their rebellious stage. Since everyone else follows the rules, they want to show off their individuality by breaking them. So even those who try to act tough, mocking everyone around them and calling them childish, can actually be viewed as cute kids searching for themselves if you look at it this way. Well, I'm lecturing about all this like I'm so smart, but I actually got it secondhand from George Anarchy. I myself was one of those embarrassing guys who thought it was cool to act like a little bastard. You know, I'm still there.
Yeah, honestly.
Well, that was when I was at the age where you try to show off for the opposite sex.
Celebrity?
So
Yeah,
fucking
like
now?
Still, yeah.
Yes.
We try to
He's just like, I didn't grow up.
You don't grow up.
He's the big kid.
I don't want to grow up. I want to be a Toys R Us kid. The main feature of the growing period lies in an impulse to break away from your life as a kid, like a chick trying to crack open the shell of their egg. Do you know what makes children and adults different?
One's older
Age?
than the other.
Fucking...
Or do you mean size?
No, it's experience.
Fuck church.
Adults can look down on children because children have very little life experience. The reason they snort at everything children say is because they think kids know nothing about the real world. Yeah, I understand that. When you're a kid, you talk like you got life all figured out somehow, trying to act like an adult. No matter what kids say, adults just snort at them, say that they're too naive, or that they'll understand when they get older or something. Well, it's probably true, but to a kid it's just annoying, like they're being looked down upon.
I get it. It's a question of knowledge and experience. Well, I guess you're right, there's no reason to respect a person for their age if they just wasted their lives.
Therefore, during the period when they try to separate themselves from other children, they also try to take a personality trait different from those around them. And if knowledge and experience what separates kids and adults...
I get it. If they know something no one else knows, it becomes part of their identity.
Shit.
You know, when I was in elementary school, I'd learn things no one else knew. Get things no one else had, wear things no one else wore, and became a bit of a hero for it. I'll bet you've done that same thing, Battler.
Saving lives, being a real hero.
Yeah. There was definitely an age when I wanted to excel in some skill or other. I just gave up on that, you know? I see it. So that's because I was trying to separate myself from being a child. Or going through my growing period, in other words. Why is he so happy?
If you put on a position's...
Positive.
you put a positive spin on it, the growing period forces you to separate yourself from others, thereby pushing you to gain skills and knowledge no one else has. This is also interesting from a sociological standpoint. Because people hate being like everyone else, they try to learn skills other people don't know. In this way, society can acquire the broad range of skills it needs to survive. The quality of the gods' programming is truly surprising.
Well, unique personality traits can also be negative, right? Like if, say, everyone in the class was studying hard, but I was the only one slacking off, trying to stand out.
Fucking valid.
Okay, that last bit really was true about me.
Oh shit.
It's only recently that I've been able to thank the middle school teacher who slapped me after school.
What? Hi, Merry Christmas.
But, well, I tried to jump over things no one else could. Sprint as fast as I could, trying to lap those guys with good grades when we did the marathon. I just felt like doing it. It was in my nature that, if I couldn't study well, then at least I could get back at them by exercising. I see. So I really did go through a proper growing period.
I guess boys really do tend to focus more on the physical stuff. But you know, girls of the same age tend to be focused more on the mental, spiritual things. I'll bet there was groups of girls in your class that got really interested in fortune-telling and their spiritual senses. Are you okay?
Yeah, there were. They come over asking me for my sign and blood type, and they'd laugh. Oh, I thought so. It really got on my nerves. No matter which class you go to, girls like fortune telling. I'm gonna cough my lungs out, so cut this out.
Jesus Christ, Nick.
And then nothing happened.
I
I guess something happened.
I actually knew a girl like that who used to be like into that spiritual stuff.
It really got on my nerves. No matter which class you go to, girls like fortune telling. Deciding whether your spirit sense is strong or weak, what your sensitivity is, whether you can see the unseeable. That kind of thing definitely happened to me.
I feel like that's probably more of a thing in Japan, though.
Yeah, definitely.
Because just the way he talks to me, it's kind of like, oh yeah, this sounds over. It's like, I mean, like, I can see kind of, but I don't know.
That's because fortune telling and spirit. Oh,
What's-
fuck. Why am I reading George's line?
Because you're dying.
Yeah, actually.
I could.
That's because fortune-telling and spiritual senses are things that aren't taught in school. To girls who tend to be more introverted.
Okay, where am George?
It's a genre that's easy to build an identity upon, and one that holds a lot of interest for them. Just like how when boys enter their growing periods, they start acting tough and rebel against adults. When girls enter their growing period, they start getting interested in that kind of thing. Well, I didn't, though.
So Maria having so much interest in the occult, isn't that rare among girls her age?
Jessica is actually absolutely in her rebellious phase right now.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
She's like, fuck grades, fuck my dad, fuck my mom.
I just want to sing music.
Actually. Even if we accept that, I wonder if it explains that creepy dual personality thing. Actually, I think I probably could accept that explanation, more or less.
She knows Hebrew, though.
Yeah, actually, that's not something that's like...
So is her
Yeah,
Jewish
little
face.
kids don't fucking...
I guess
Like-
Maria's just kind of a prodigy.
She's just kind of fucking thinkum.
Can I pick a new
She got that big think.
She does
Maria's
get that
again
big thing.
chill. As you just said, becoming an adult means gaining knowledge and experience.
And can quote Bible off memory, so like...
Seriously, holy fuck.
So to gain that, it's necessary for children to learn all sorts of things and break free from childhood.
So that means we're going to Bible study? Fuck.
However, there are certain convenient delusions that you see often in the world of children, both now and in the past. Do you know what I mean?
It's just like that thing.
You see it all the time in manga and anime, right?
Manga, you fool.
Fuck off. It's kind of like that. Like, you got memories from a previous life that start to resurface.
Isekai.
Like you're being possessed by the soul of the great something or whatever. It's the great pumpkin, Charlie.
Or could it be a sleeping gene that gets awakened?
Oh, like the one that makes you cry when your parents die?
Yeah, it's like that gene. Or maybe a sealed power, memory returns. There's all kinds. Fucking hand. For some reason, stuff like that's really popular at that age. Why is that?
Fucking hand.
I couldn't read the text.
I'm sorry.
Fucking hand.
It's fun.
All of those examples you've just mentioned are illusions that let children immediately add to their sum of knowledge and experience. If a 9-year-old girl says that she has a 1,000-year-old witch possessing her, then she gains a 1,009-year-old identity.
Is that how that works? 1,000 plus 9 equals 1,009, quick math?
So does that mean that she identifies as a 1,000-year-old witch?
Yes.
So basically, studying is annoying. But these delusions are convenient for people who want to brag about having a skill no one else has. Amazing the people around them.
So you can brag about something without having to work hard or study. I see. Isn't that a kid's greatest dream?
Yeah, Maria did not have to study to learn Hebrew.
Yeah, no, she just fucking
Just like fucking like
zap that shit into her brain.
Yeah, you know.
Zippity zap.
Hebrew season
Or
one,
probably
obviously.
read the Bible multiple times. Fuck.
She
What?
also knew
She
enough
just read
about
that one
fucking
verse
Hebrew
multiple
to like
times.
fucking immediately go, oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Fucking it's this Bible verse in Hebrew exactly, correct?
And
yes?
this is the name of these 4 lords and angels. Like,
Yes,
fuck.
like,
Yeah,
you know?
that's all she studied. She didn't read any of the Bible, just that verse, and then she just knew that by chance.
She literally looked at them and was like, haven't you fucking read the Bible?
Yeah.
No, what if that was
This kid's here to,
all
like, beat
bullshit
them.
she made up and they all just fell for it hard?
I mean,
It's
possible.
pretty advanced bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's real. That's
Yeah,
high
still,
level
like,
bullshit.
You can't fake that like drawing skill and recreating that magic circle. That's
Yeah.
gotta
Yeah.
You can't bullshit that really.
She was actually in the window with like a fucking like binocular.
like
She was like spying on them.
She's like, I guess my dead mother.
anyway.
Well, shit, looks like my mother's dead.
Anyway.
Furthermore, in their desire to separate themselves from being kids, they always project an image of ideal self.
Don't we all?
And it's not rare for that desired self to become an alternate personality. Even you, Battler-kun, probably had a slightly different personality at home and at school, right?
Oh, definitely.
It'd probably be embarrassing if your friends at school saw how you were at home.
dig out.
At school, you try to project yourself as you want to be, but home is where you're your true self.
So, in other words, I'm changing my personality depending on the situation. Are you trying to say having multiple personalities is actually really common?
So schizophrenia is not a mental disorder?
I mean, no, that's not what that is.
Yeah, that's not at all what that is.
Yeah, you're right. That's multiple personality.
This is like-
disorder.
No, that's
just
not.
They're talking about, like, I forget, code shifting, I think it's
Dual
called.
identity.
No, they're just talking about, like, how you act differently
yeah.
in front of different
Yeah.
people. It's switching codes.
For
like what's socially acceptable.
The illusion
That's,
of someone being
transition to
fake
this
when
one.
really they just act differently in different situations
Yeah,
and
putting up
from
a
different
front.
people.
Oh.
Not even
Oh,
putting
just
up a
that.
front,
Oh,
just
yeah,
so
just
much as like I wouldn't talk to you as much as I like how I talk to my mom or my grandmother.
Yeah.
Getting fucking psychological facts.
Yeah, like I wouldn't talk to my family about getting a reach around and getting fucked in the ass.
I mean, yeah, I
Fuck.
Ah, Nathan, no! Nathan getting fucked in the ass. Oh God.
Anyways.
As you were
A girl who's fan of the occult might say she's being possessed or awakened. Honestly, there are so many kids who change their personality so much, it is creepy. And some boys do it too, right? Oh, fucking God. Guys who say they've blown their top and
It'd be like that sometimes.
suddenly turn into some overplayed violent character.
I'm so calm.
I'll bet they think it's pretty cool, but it's painful to watch.
Let's sum all this up. So you're saying
TLDR.
that even if a girl about Maria's age shows a creepy second personality like she did a minute ago, it isn't such a rare or unusual thing.
Simply put, that's right. Identity is an important factor when building up one's sense of self.
It's kind of like a redundant sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you make fun of it, it can actually cause children to go back into their shell. So it's important to go along with them in some degree. Although the broad-mindedness of the parent determines whether they play along in full or not.
Aniki, I can't believe you're single. Fuck, it's not like your fiancé just died or something.
But fuck, actually.
Literally.
Rub it
I
in.
can't believe you're single. Oh wait, you weren't until like
This
literally
morning.
2 hours ago.
Yeah.
You sound like you've already raised kids through middle school.
Fuck that.
So I wonder if Aunt Rosa also knew this much about Maria's dual personality.
She knew about it. Just between us, Aunt Rosa really hated it.
You know what's the cure for such things?
She said it was unpleasant, and that Maria was becoming increasingly isolated from the rest of the class. So anytime Maria started talking about the occult or laughing like a witch, she'd slap her.
You know what she does.
And it looked like Maria stopped talking that way in front of her.
Maybe that thing back there was just a little game from a girl facing her own growing period. Just a girl trying to show that she was different and independent by holding interest in witches and the occult. And since she wanted to be different from herself, young as she was switching between her normal personality and the personality of her ideal, a witch. At first, I found that very disturbing. But after being lectured by George Aniki, it felt like this was a path everyone walked at one time or another. I haven't told anyone, but when I was in kindergarten, I joined up with a little gang of kids trying to form an Earth Defense Force, saying we'd help protect peace on Earth.
Yeah,
My face turns red when I remember how, during what we called battle practice, we would chant, EDF! EDF! Just like usual, Maria was relaxing, immersed in the TV, ooh-ing it, and laughing like any girl her age. But on the inside, another personality, that of the ideal witch she respected and blindly accepted, was sleeping. But that wasn't anything extraordinary. It was perfectly natural for a girl her age. Why does Matt talk so goddamn much? I've calmed down a little. The shock from my bizarre experience in the kitchen just now was fading away.
That was a bizarre adventure.
If I hadn't talked to Aniki and Jessica, I might still be frightened by the idea that an invisible witch is standing right behind me.
Actually, in Japanese, Battler and Jotaro from JoJo have the same voice, which is real funny.
What?
However, can I really accept that as an explanation for what happened back there? If it had just been Maria, I could have explained it as the fickle delusions of a growing girl. But Genji-san, Kanin-kun, Kumasawa-chan had also been there. None of them had denied what Maria said. They silently accepted that Beatrice exists. I was starting to feel a little uneasy. Aneba's position was that there was no 19th person that existed, that the crime was an inside job tied to the family quarrels. On the other hand, Aunt Natsuhi's position was that the culprit was hiding somewhere outside the mansion. So she rejected the possibility of an inside job, and supported the idea that a 19th person existed. And in the kitchen, Maria and the servants had also supported the idea of a 19th person. But according to them, this 19th person isn't human. They said it was an invisible witch carrying out some mysterious plan. Is there a 19th person, or not? Is the culprit human, or a witch? For some reason, I couldn't just laugh off any of those possibilities. Not even the most ridiculous story about the witch. Jessica, all I know about the story of the witch is that the adults made it up to keep the kids too scared to enter the forest. But is the story different here in the mansion?
I feel the same way you do, okay? I think it was just a stupid ghost story the parents made up so the kids would listen to them. But I can't deny that the atmosphere inside the mansion makes it a little hard to say it out loud.
Say it loud.
After all, grandfather has proclaimed that Beatrice exists. And because of their position, the servants can't doubt that. Even Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsuhi don't want to get into the fight with him, so, on the surface, they go along with it. So it's probably fair to say that doubting the existence of Beatrice is taboo to those who live and work in this mansion. Unlike the rest of us, who only come here once a year. Is that right?
Jessica took a deep breath in admiration. It looked like Aniki had guessed right.
It's just like you say. No one really believes it on the inside. But on the outside, they accept that like she exists.
Nice ad lib.
Thanks. Fuck. See, it's just like the way some people are about God. Even if they know God doesn't exist.
Even if they know.
Even if they
Fuck.
know!
Damn. They feel like it'd be uncouth if they...
Uncouth.
Really?
Yep, it's
Yeah.
uncouth.
What the fuck?
English,
Okay.
man.
Uncouth if they actually said it out loud. I've been saying uncouth for years.
Jesus.
Same, so am I.
How do you think the servants feel about it? Are they just going along with it because grandfather, their employer, says that she exists?
Well, I don't really know the details, but between the servants, the story about Beatrice has been treated like a sort of ghost story. Remember yesterday when Shannon was taking us down by the beach? That story about how one night she was doing the rounds in the mansion, she saw something unsettling?
She did say something like that, didn't she? Back then, I thought she was just being really nice to help improve Maria's mood, but it felt like she was serious when she said it. That's right, she definitely said it. She definitely said it, the same kind of thing that Genji and the rest had all unanimously declared back in the kitchen. Get up here, Shannon.
In addition, some servants have also seen will-o'-the-wisps and gathering butterflies dancing around. Cannon-kun also saw something like that when he went patrolling one night. And recently, you often hear servants talking about strange footsteps heard inside the mansion near midnight. We've whispered together that the Beatrice-sama in the portrait sometimes makes herself invisible and walks through the mansion. It happened a while ago. But even I have heard footsteps while patrolling at night that resemble these stories.
That's right, she definitely said that. Exactly the same thing that I just now been told.
Ah, but there's nothing to be afraid of. Beatrice-sama is another ruler of this mansion, separate from the master, so there's no need to be unnaturally afraid. If you respect her, I hear she won't do anything bad.
However, she can be quite terrifying if you don't respect her, right?
Correct. I've heard that just before I began working here, someone who spoke badly about Beatrice-sama fell down the stairs and quit after receiving a large injury to their back. Because of that, there was a rumor between the servants that Beatrice-sama's anger had been brought down upon this person. If you don't respect
This
her...
is absolutely not Shannon, because she's fucking dead, my guy.
Yeah.
Jessica?
Yeah.
If you don't respect her, you'll suffer her wrath and get hurt. So, to the servants, Beatrice's experience is just as credible as the story that if you pull pranks on Ninari-san, you'll receive Kitsu-sama's curse.
Fuck, we're all such weebs in this fucking film.
God damn it, you fucking weeaboo trash.
Of course, even though everyone accepts that curses and the like don't exist in the modern era, people are still afraid and still have little respect for them. You often see it when, in a residential area, someone is building a house, and they call for a Shinto priest for a ceremony to honor the god of the plot of the land. You might think that was a big waste of time and money, but it's said that if the workers don't do that, a big accident will occur, so they never neglect to do it. You also hear about how, if an Inari shrine is carelessly removed during a town replanning, there'd be a curse by Kitsune-sama. I think I might have read somewhere that when the occupying forces were trying to expand an airport, they tried to remove an Inari-san that was in the way, and the workers kept mysteriously getting struck down by fevers. Even in modern cities like Tokyo, it wasn't rare to see modern buildings packed all around an old Inari shrine, leaving the shrine itself untouched. And this wasn't limited to Japan. It's probably similar to how foreigners baptize babies. If I remember right, by Christian doctrine, if unbaptized souls have even the slightest amount of sin, they will still go to hell. Putting water on a child's forehead doesn't do anything but make them cry. But if by doing that, parents can prevent their children from going to hell, they will happily go through with that ceremony. In short, even in this modern society of reason, we are still unable to throw away every trace of belief and fear. We could even say that we accept certain sorts of supernatural things, though in a passive way. Maybe the only difference on this island is that Beatrice is the object of that worship. So in other words, if anything that happens that doesn't seem explainable in human terms, it's called the work of Beatrice. I think Shannon-chan said it herself. Windows and doors and locks that were tightly shut would be open the next time you want to check on them. Lights that should have been went on, went out, and lights that should have been on, out were on. And if I remember, even Jessica was joking about it, saying that it was the work of Beatrice when she couldn't find her bag in the morning.
Your memory's pretty good. Normally, you'd say some little imps took them, but on this island, it's Beatrice. Well, it's all pretty stupid, though. This mansion has been standing for about 30 years by now, hasn't it? It's natural for things that old to get their fair share of ghosts and occult stories. Like the 7 mysteries at a school.
But that's where I'll spin the chessboard around. Fuck, I hate this guy. Jessica.
Huh?
Simply say it out loud.
Simply put, on this island, there's a rule that Beatrice gets blamed for anything that couldn't have been done by humans. Things that humans can't do. How many humans are here? 18. In other words, the culprit is using the rules of this island to make it look like a witch committed this crime, which proves that they desperately want us to think that a 19th person did it. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit.
What do you mean you don't like it?
Let's assume some invisible 19th person exists and wants people to know they exist. If it were me, I'd do it with even more perfect timing.
What do you mean by perfect timing?
Well, the crime took place sometime between the middle of the night and dawn, right? We had some people who were talking together until the middle of the night, some people on nighttime shifts, and some people who'd returned to their rooms and were sleeping. Everyone's alibi is really vague, so there's plenty of room to suspect that the crime was an inside job. George Anki, Aneva probably told you too, right? That there's a good chance this crime was an inside job?
Yes. I guess.
In other words, if this invisible 19th person really exists and wants to let us know it, the first crime was a complete failure. No, in the first place, they chose the wrong time of day to do it. If this invisible 19th person really wanted to show themselves, they had to make sure that the crime took place under conditions which proved that the remaining 12 people were all innocent. As long as there's a single human we can suspect, this 19th person's attempt to highlight their presence fails. That's why near midnight, when everyone's alibis are at the vaguest, the 19th person's existence is also at the vaguest. And yet, the culprit chose this time to commit the crime.
By committing the crime, then, one of the 18 would obviously be suspected. And yet, someone handed Maria that letter and called themselves a witch, even though everyone denies they did it. In other words, you're trying to say that one of the 18 is trying to make it look like the 19th person called Beatrice exists? That's a pretty crazy idea. I think Mom's theory about someone hiding outside the mansion is a bit more credible. Battler, don't tell me you actually think someone is in this room as the culprit.
I do. Someone's trying to force us to accept that Beatrice exists. That's right. This whole thing started as far back as the letter last night. I don't have any basis or proof, but with that chessboard turned around, this is my best guess.
Seriously, that's too crazy. You sure you haven't been reading too many weird detective novels? However, it's an angle we can't ignore, whether there's a 19th person or not. The culprit's definitely planning something involving the rule about this island. Just now, listening to Battler Kun talk, I remembered something that's a little disturbing.
Something disturbing?
Yes. Do you remember? Beatrice's letter. It said that Beatrice was going to collect interest. And by interest, it mentioned everything of the Ushiromiya family.
Jessica and I thought back on what Maria had read aloud the previous night. Yeah, it said that. It definitely said that. That the collection of interest was going to take place shortly, but if the riddle of the gold could be solved, she'd lose that right. Oh, that one, I guess.
Yeah.
Grandfather received the gold and rebuilt the Ushiromiya family. In other words, according to Beatrice, everything created using the gold as capital counts as part of the interest, which means... Oh, fuck, no, that was George.
Oh.
I guess we're ignoring that, though.
Okay, that's fine.
That's pretty scary for a joke, Aniki. You don't mean everything of the Ushiromiya family. In other words, everything that grandfather gave birth to. In other words, everyone with grandfather's blood flowing through their veins. Georgie.
If you interpret the letter that way, these murders are just Beatrice legitimately collecting interest. If that's the case, these crimes will continue, because the collection of interest is still only halfway complete.
George turned around, looking over the parlor. There were still many people who held the name Ushiromiya. And because Goto-san and Shannon-chan had been killed, we knew that even the servants were, not even the servants were safe, despite lacking the Ushiromiya name.
So they're planning to kill us all. But that's weird, George Nissan. In that case, why only 6 people? They should have been able to kill a lot more. At worst, it should have been possible to kill Should have been possible for them to assault everyone while they were sleeping and kill them in a single night.
Yeah, why didn't they do that?
Why
It's
didn't
so
they
much
do that?
better.
That's a line, by the way, Scott.
What?
Why didn't they do that?
That was
a line.
literally
Oh, really?
This story would have been
That's
a lot
funny.
faster if they just killed them all in one night.
the
Yeah,
special
fine.
clause. If someone manages to involve the riddle of the gold, solve the riddle of the gold, their right to the interest will be lost. And remember how the letter ended? It challenged us all to solve the riddle of grandfather's gold.
Jesus. It looks like we're finally starting to understand the culprit's message. In other words, the culprit's telling us to try and solve the riddle on the epitaph that grandfather made. On top of that, they're saying that if we just sit around, they'll keep collecting the interest. I realize this is all based on several guesses that are way out there, but not everything that happens in this world fits together in a perfect line. Most of the events we don't understand are only individual points. By fitting them into a straight line, we're beginning to understand. When the point at either end of the line are really close, the line itself is more logical and easier to understand. And when those points are really far away, the opposite is true. It's the distance between these points that makes us say our guesses are way out there. However, if the distances we span are too narrow, that means our thinking will be narrow too. Is there a difference between making guesses and reasoning? Am I just using easily made guesses to try and force this crime into a pattern I can understand? No, that's not it. When you're lost in the dark and searching around with your hands, what you're doing is relying on your imagination and making guesses. Only imagination can find the points that need to be tied together. Reasoning is nothing more than the act of drawing lines between them. If you can't imagine, you can't reason. What I'm doing now might be way out there, but I'm sure it isn't a mistake either. Only the power of imagination can pull clues out from the darkness, and then I can use the power of reasoning to tie those clues together. It was a lot like the process of searching out an enemy's weak point and striking. It's okay if I'm way out there. Find the weak point first, then think about how to strike. Right now is the time to find weak points we can tie together later.
This man is super dummy dying.
It was quiet. For the time being, I put aside whether a 19th person existed, and announced our theory that the goal of the culprit might have been to make us solve the riddle of the epitaph. Uncle Hideyoshi seemed to be extremely interested, but Aunt Natsu said it was ridiculous and dismissed it. Scott, you wanna?
Of course. If you think about it that way, even that letter from yesterday makes sense. That motive seems to fit pretty well with the facts. Setting aside whoever it was that gave Maria Chen the letter.
Ooh! Beatrice exists! Ooh! Even though she was puffing up her cheeks in a cute way she'd been doing since yesterday, I couldn't think of it as cute. If I poked fun at her, it might suddenly transform into a creepy laugh. There is no hidden gold. However, if the culprit is blindly sure of its existence, and if they're trying to make us solve the riddle before snatching the gold away for themselves, then I'll agree it makes sense. However, if that were the case, why would they start by killing those most highly ranked in the Ushiromiya family? I see your point. If they wanted us to make us solve the riddle, killing those closest to Kinzo doesn't sound like a good plan to me.
That's true enough. And if we're going with that argument, wouldn't it have been quicker to threaten Father in the first place? You'd think it'd be faster to just ask the person who wrote it rather than try to force us to solve it.
You got a point there. Still, I think it'd take more than your average threat to make Father spill the beans.
Anyone who knows Kinzo-san well would probably realize that he wouldn't bow to ordinary threats. He's the man who bears the responsibility for the Ushiromiya family and all its vast wealth. He's been exposed to many threats and attacks in the past. The family only prospers today because he was able to overcome all of them.
That's freaking right! I can't even imagine our grandfather obeying something because of a threat.
Jessica, watch your language.
Fuck. Yes, Mom. Shit.
In that case, what about this idea? No, wait. Is this one also way out there? I couldn't hesitate. Out there ideas are like bows and arrows. It might be hard to hit with, but it's a great weapon because you can hit enemies far away. I hate this weapon shit most of the time, actually.
I love it.
They say most people who've died in battles were killed by arrow wounds.
I think it's great. I think it
Yeah.
works.
In a battle, you can't just shoot off one arrow. You shoot a whole bunch of arrows at once, pushing forwards towards the enemy troops with a wall of them. So keep shooting, over and over. Create a wall as you push forwards towards the truth. If the culprit is after the hidden gold, forcing us to solve the riddle wouldn't be very efficient for them. It'd be much quicker and easier to ask the person who made it in the first place. In that case, the question is this all a message directed at Grandfather? In other words, these murders were a threat made against Grandfather. If you didn't tell the culprit where the gold was, his family members would be killed off one by one. He'd be like, yeah!
Yeah!
What if we weren't the only ones being forced to solve this riddle? What if Grandfather was too? That doesn't really make sense, but okay.
Yeah,
If you think about it
Grandpa
that
solved
way,
the riddle.
it explains Grandfather's mysterious disappearance.
I feel like, what is
Like, I know I
six
wrote
chosen by the key mean? I don't know. I don't know.
If the culprit has already attacked Grandfather, then judging by the state the 6 corpses were left in, he shouldn't have been left on display somewhere with that horrible makeup added.
Makeup.
But despite that, we still haven't found him. So does that mean Grandfather's been kidnapped and is being held somewhere? How could... You aren't saying how could...
That sounds interesting. So, Grandfather being confined somewhere. And the culprit saying will be killed off one by one if he doesn't tell them where the gold is.
It pains me to imagine how you find that interesting. Anatsi glared at her, but Aneva just smiled calmly.
Since we still haven't seen him after all this time, I think it's almost certain that Grandfather's gotten caught up in the crime. If you think about it, you can't just ignore Battler Kuhn's theory, right? Be quiet, George. In the first place, when did Father actually disappear?
Who was the last person to see Father?
It was probably me. This morning, when we didn't know where my husband and the rest were, we discussed the possibility of them being in Father's study. And I went to check his room and greeted him there. Come to think of it, I've been holding the key to his study the whole time, haven't I? Genji, let me return this to you. Anatsi pulled out the gold key and handed it to Genji. Looking at the key, Aneva giggled.
Hey, Genji-san. I'm sure the police will inspect Father's room thoroughly. If there's anything hidden there, it'll just be exposed anyway. So maybe it'd be better if you just told us about it right here, right now.
What are you talking about?
It's simple. Father's study is a closed room with no way in or out except for that key, right? I want to verify whether that's true. There is one entrance to Father's study. What about the window? Any other entrance or exits?
There are none. There is no way to get in except the entrance.
You sure about that? There isn't some secret hidden door or anything? Since Father isn't here, I am the highest ranking member of the Ushiromiya family. I am asking you as a representative of the Ushiromiya family head. Remember that when you answer me. Are there any ways in or out of that room other than the main entrance? As Father's closest aide, I'm sure you wouldn't know.
Anatsi looked a little offended at the part about the highest ranked family member, but she kept her mouth closed for the time being and waited for Genji to answer. I couldn't help but feel a little uncomfortable. Why was she going on and on about hidden doors?
You too, Kennen-kun, Kumasawa-san. If you know, won't you tell me? If there is one, it'd be better if you said so. Otherwise, a certain person might be driven into a corner in a second. If we assume that there is a hidden door, then my argument comes to nothing.
Aneva didn't specify which person was about to be driven into a corner. But following the flow of the conversation, I had a feeling she was referring to Aunt Natsuhi.
Mother, what are you talking about? George, stay quiet for a bit. What do you say? Genji-san? Kennen-kun? Or Kumasawa-san? Is there a hidden door? Or not? Genji-san, Genji-san, when you remodeled Father's study, You must have overseen the construction. I won't let you say you don't know.
There is nothing like that in the master's study. Thought.
Jesus.
You're sure? What about Canning-kun? One who's allowed to wear the winged eagle.
One-eagled wing.
When he was wing.
That's right. I'm sure. There is no such hidden door in the master's study.
Kumasawa-san?
No, I haven't heard of such a thing.
What about Dr. Nacho? You've had a close relationship with Father.
I have never heard of something like that.
Very well, then. So, are you ready? Let me begin. It's very simple.
Everyone tilted their head doubtfully, wondering what Aunt Ava was starting to talk about so proudly. Aunt Ava laughed triumphantly, as though she were about to reveal a secret only she knew.
Natsuhine-san was the last person to spot Father, right? I forget the exact time, but I think it was a little before 9 in the morning. Ne-san, do you remember? I ran into you just as you were coming out of Father's study, right?
Yes, I remember. What does it have to do with anything?
And when was the next time you went to visit Father's study? That was after we found the bodies of Nissan and the rest, right? Together with me, you went up to the study to report that, and we discovered that he wasn't there. By the way, Ne-san, at that time, when you went to enter Father's study, did you notice anything?
Notice anything? What are you talking about? I'm like losing the Nazi voice.
Oh, come on. You picked up some trash, right? A folded receipt.
I do seem to remember picking up some trash. How is that relevant?
I got the receipt when I brought some candy at a store before arriving at the airport.
Aunt Ava pulled a small bag of candy out of her handbag.
Ah, the receipt from the candy you brought back there? But Mother, what does that receipt have to do with anything?
George, stay quiet and listen for just a bit longer.
Uncle Hideyoshi's expression was a little strict. Apparently, he understood what Aunt Ava was getting at.
It really was just a whim. I definitely didn't foresee anything. Or try to set up a trap for Natsuhine-san. Or anything like that. Actually, about the receipt. Ne-san, you remember bumping into me right after the last time you saw Father, right? At that time, I wedged it into the door to the study.
So what does that mean? Are you saying no one opened the door until Aunt Natsuhi picked up that receipt?
Wait a second, Aunt Ava. Wedging a receipt wouldn't be obvious. It's possible that when Grandfather opened the door, he noticed it found it amusing and stuck it back in the door.
Jessica hurriedly argued back. She still didn't really know what this all meant. But she realized that, whatever it was, it would raise suspicion about her own mother.
Of course. I folded the receipt up very small so that no one would notice it. But even if you assume that he saw it fall, he would have no way of knowing how high up in the door it had been stuck, right? I checked it while Natsuhine-san was taking the key out. The receipt was still stuck. No, not 1 millimeter away from where I put it.
I can't understand why you would pull such a childish prank. I'll bet you were the one who did that prank on the door to my room, too. The door to your room. It was unpleasant to talk about, so I never mentioned it. But when I woke up this morning, there were signs of some prank on the outside of my door, with what was possibly the same red paint that was scribbled across the shutter. There were some unpleasant marks, as though someone had been tearing at the door.
Wait, what's this? Why'd you keep quiet about this till now?
You didn't bring it up when there was a fucking murder?
My apologies.
Always slipped your mind.
Since
Okay.
so many horrible things have occurred since then.
Oh, fuck.
I'd completely forgotten about it until this moment.
I don't know anything about that. I'm not talking about your door, but the door to Father's room, right? Between the time you confirmed that he was in his room and the time we confirmed that he wasn't, the door wasn't opened even once. How did Father get out if he didn't use the door?
The window.
It's the
To the
third
window,
floor.
to the wall.
I don't know
All the
that.
windows fall.
That's what I want to know. Fuck, I should have screen anymore.
Nazi Nason, other than you, who else checked to see whether Father was in his room?
Last night, the last time that Kinzo-san was when we were playing chess. So I was with him until just before dinner.
Who saw him after that? I did. I gave him his dinner last night.
Yes. Shannon and I were with him.
So at that time, Father was still definitely in his room. However, Natsuhine-san, when you found out he wasn't there, it looks like all ways in or out of the study were closed, right? But even so, you said you met with him this morning.
I don't understand why everyone has become so gloomy. Could someone please explain it to me?
Father and Mother, are you saying that what Natsuhi says about meeting grandfather this morning was a lie?
Wasn't red text.
Like hell she'd lie about that. Mom's guiltless. Why would she lie?
Jessica! I keep telling you to watch your language. All at once, the whole room was in an uproar. Oneva and Natsuhi confronted each other across the parlor table, with George confronting Jessica. What the heck's going on?
Many people spotted him last night, right? But since this morning, the only one who claims to have seen Father is Natsuhi-san. And then there's that strange fact we learned about my receipt. So, how can we connect these points together?
Oneva urged everyone to imagine it. Sure, the receipt could become an important point, but I didn't know which other points to tie it to, or how. If we try searching for the answer Aunt Ava probably wants, we'll find that Aunt Natsuhi lied and acted as though grandfather was in the room this morning. Has the fact been exposed by a whim of Aunt Ava's?
I don't get it at all. Why would Mom have to lie? She had no reason to, right? That's what I want to know. But Jessica-chan, you can't be sure she had no reason to lie and say that grandfather was in the room. After all, you see it in mystery novels every now and then. That trick where people fake the time of death to create an alibi for themselves. What are you talking about? I've never heard of that.
Should read more books, Jessica. Jesus.
Instead of makeup.
Listen.
We still haven't found Father yet, but it's pretty natural to assume he's already been killed. If that's true, there's no doubt we'll find his corpse soon. If at that point...
This is Ava, by the way.
Fucking damn it.
Yeah.
If at that point, the time of death could be cleverly faked, Natsuhine-san would be able to create an alibi.
Jessica would not call him father.
Yeah, I just realized that too late. Do you understand? Everyone?
This morning, when Aunt Natsuhi confirmed that the grandfather was there, she lied. He was already dead at that time, and then she moved the body to some other location and tampered with it so that when we find it, we'll think he was killed just a second ago. That'd make it possible for her to create an alibi, even just by staying with the rest of us. Then she could say, I heard someone screaming. Dash over there and become the first to find the body, along with everyone else. Is that what Aunt Ava's saying? Ridiculous! After all, detective novels are merely books for the purpose of entertainment. You can only think of such an indiscreet idea because you read them all the time.
That's right! Even if she did try to fake the time of death a little, all that would be blown away in an instant once the police did their autopsy. That might have worked in the past, but do you really think that kind of trick would work in modern Japan? It doesn't make any sense. You think so? This morning when Dr. Nanjo looked at the corpses, he was only able to give a vague estimate of the time of death, right? Autopsy results are very easily affected by the environment and the individual differences. It's a very relative estimate, with an uncertainty of several hours. And, unfortunately, the police's scientific investigation will have to wait until tomorrow. It wouldn't be easy to measure the correct time of death so accurately even in modern Japan. Isn't that right, Dr. Nanjo?
Examining a corpse is an extremely difficult task that requires both experience and instinct. I have heard that there is a very high chance of a mistaken diagnosis. I imagine it is very possible for a misreading of just a few hours to occur.
However, for an alibi, that's more than enough. It's an old trick. It's a trick that works well enough. Natsuhime-san, it's not like we want to suspect you, okay? We just want to prove your innocence so we don't have to suspect you.
What is this innocence you want me to prove?
Oh shit.
This morning, I definitely met with Father, and he told me to keep the one-winged eagle engraved in my heart. Are you denying that he said that too? I will certainly not permit that. I won't let you deny that Father said those words.
Or maybe Father's body won't appear anywhere.
I did say those words.
Normally, a person has to be missing for several years before they're officially dead. Wouldn't that be a clever way to extend Father's nearly finished life on another 7 years and keep all of this wealth for yourself?
I can't let you get away with saying that. I can't let you get away with saying anymore. I am Ushiromiya Natsuhi. Although I do not have the right to wear the one-winged eagle on my body, it is certainly engraved on my own heart. What do you think you're saying to the wife of Kraus, successor of the head, and the one who will act as such in his place?
What is this? Are you going to shoot me with that gun?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Boom.
Do it, you won't.
If only you just shoot.
I like you said boom.
You just... Fucking boom. You're just desperate because you... God damn it!
We're actually ruining this.
Okay, go
This
for it.
man has been standing at me, rocking a water bottle at my fucking face.
Sorry.
Like a gun! You're just desperate because you can't think of a way out, right? Do it. Just try to obscure the truth with violence.
You...
Do it.
It wasn't like Aunt Natsuki had been actually holding that gun at the ready and threatening anyone. But, as she was egged on by Aunt Eva, she did hold it at the ready. Unsurprisingly, once things got at this stage, Jessica and Genji-san tried to stop her.
Madam, please, calm yourself.
Mom, you aren't lying. So there's no reason for you to listen to this.
Calm down, Natsuhi-san. All you gotta do is swear that Father definitely was in that room. Why are you getting so worked up?
Yeah, what's wrong?
That is correct. Natsuki-san isn't lying. Shouldn't that be the end of it?
Then I want you to explain. How did Father manage to disappear from that room? The window was closed tight from the inside. The same was true for the door, right? This morning, if you really met with Father, then you must explain how Father disappeared from the unopenable door, closed room scenario. If you don't, that'd mean that you're lying after all, right?
How far do you plan to mock me?
If you want to argue back, go ahead. That's right. Try explaining it right here, right now. If you do, I'll apologize for suspecting you. How did Father manage to get out from the closed room?
I cannot explain, and there's no need for me to do so.
Really? Then let me explain it. Let's take the best parts from my perspective and yours and come up with a more friendly explanation. I'll believe what you say about Father still being in the room this morning. However, the next time the door was opened, Father wasn't there. You don't have any objection so far, right?
I have no desire to hear any more you have to say. Shut your frivolous mouth.
My reasoning goes like this, okay? I can confirm that on both occasions, you were the only one to go through the door. And the receipt proves it. So, what's the answer to the puzzle of how Father left the room? The window. He was sent out the window. Natsuhine-san, you threw Father out of the third floor story window of the study into the courtyard.
You!
Madam, please, endure it. Ava-sama, please, stop this.
After that, when you left and said you were going to check the doors and windows, you took Father's corpse, which had fallen into the courtyard, and hid it. That was probably when you took some measure to fake the times of death, right?
This ties in with the case regarding Kraus, Nissan, and the rest, and also the case regarding Beatrice last night. There's a really good chance we got reason to suspect Natsuhi-san in all those cases. Normally, I wouldn't want to say this, but now that it's out in the open, there's nothing else I can do. Please, Natsuhi-san, please explain how you can be innocent. Otherwise, I can't help but suspect you.
Thanks for backing me, honey.
Why me? Why must I, Ushiromi and Natsu, be insulted like this? Looks like we've got everyone's views on record now. It's useless. It's all useless. On Ava.
His catchphrase.
What do you mean, useless?
Jessica looked up at me, hanging on to every word. On Ava's expression was confident as ever.
Useless, you say? What is? Battler-kun, tell me.
You're only convinced it was on Natsuhi because you're the one looking at the case from a single angle. It's not like I'm defending her, but that bluff of a checkmate isn't gonna fly. I think your reasoning regarding that receipt was passable. It's not a bad thread of logic, but I'd only give it a grade of 65 at best. If this were an exam, that'd be bad enough to get you an extra lessons in detention, right?
Oh my. Well, how do you think anyone could break through the door sealed by my receipt and make sure Father's disappeared? Other than by my theory.
It's true that your theory is an interesting one. And if you could say for sure that there was no way to make Father disappear, you probably would be able to prove that the last person to see him, on Natsuhi, is guilty. However, since there's still a possibility she's innocent and these accusations are false, we can't be sure about that.
Then, Battler-kun, are you saying someone other than Natsuhi-san made grandfather disappear? It'd be impossible for anyone else to do it. My receipt proved that, right? After the first time she visited that study, and until the second time when we visited together, the study was perfectly closed room. And when the seal was broken on the closed room, he was already missing. If that doesn't prove she's the culprit, what kind of trick could have been used?
He's
Like
gonna
I
show
s-
the seal.
Spider-Man.
I mean, that's not too far off from what he's about to say. Like I said on Ava, only 65 points. So let's try spinning the chessboard around, shall we?
Pretty cats.
The question isn't how someone managed to make grandfather disappear from the outside. We should think about how grandfather disappeared from the inside. The door and the receipt stuck in it, so it couldn't have been used. He also couldn't have gone through the window because you can't lock it from the outside. And when Aunt Ava visited the study, she checked to make sure it was locked. So the window also wasn't used. At that point, the study really was a closed room. We have to accept this. However, the study didn't remain a closed room forever. Once the seal created by the receipt was removed, it would be possible for someone to escape by the door. In other words, the question isn't how Natsuhi made grandfather disappear. We need to think about how he was able to escape. Grandfather's study isn't an ordinary study, right? According to Genji-san, there's a toilet and a kitchen, and even a bedroom, almost like a little house. For example, what if he was hiding under the bed, and the two of you only thought he was missing? On Ava, you didn't check that far, right?
He's not like this big.
And then the two of you went back down the stairs thinking he wasn't there. At that time, the receipt was already gone. In other words, if grandfather was hiding in his room the whole time it was a closed room, and escaped after letting the two of you go past him, we can crack this closed room right open.
What are you talking about? Why would Father need to escape the room in such a bizarre fashion? Don't be so absurd.
Yeah, it might be absurd. However, it still shows that there's a possibility Aunt Natsuhi is being falsely accused. Your receipt wasn't perfect. In chess, We might call that a check, but it isn't checkmate. But the thing that really pisses me off is how you're pressuring Aunt Nazi to explain it, then claiming that she must be guilty if she doesn't. If you want to go down that road, then why don't you let me, Ushiromi a battler, spin the chessboard around one more time? Aunt Eva, according to your own argument, you must explain to us why you and Uncle Hideyoshi couldn't have killed the Six last night and then casually returned to the guest house. You've been trying to force Aunt Nazi to explain. So I'm sure you can prove your own innocence, right? Especially now that old grandfather's wealth has suddenly plopped down right into your hands.
That's right, you're suspicious enough yourself, aren't you? If you say Mom's suspicious because she was the last person to see him, then what about you, Aunt Ava? The last person to see Dad and the rest. Just like Battler said, prove that you two weren't the ones that killed them. Mother, I also think your reasoning was a little overeager. I'm sure the receipt was an important hint. But like Battler-kun said, that's not enough to prove that Aunt Natsuhi was responsible for some plot. We're all equally suspicious. It's not right for only Natsuhi to be persecuted. Our proud father crawling under his bed? You call nonsense like that an explanation? In that case, what do you explain first? Who killed those Six and how and then try showing us proof that you weren't involved.
I actually have an asthma attack, please, Hannah.
Something came up there.
Okay. Too real.
My throat hurts a little.
Milady!
Jessica suddenly started coughing. At first, I thought she was just choking after yelling too loud. Before long, I realized how painful it looked. Jessica kept coughing and choking, down on her hands and knees. Jessica, hang in there! Dr. Nanjo! Jessica-san, your inhaler, quickly! No, wait, I have one with me. Dr. Nanjo pulled out a bronchodilator inhaler from his own bag, which was lying on the sofa, and handed it to Jessica. Come to think of it, 6 years ago, didn't Jessica sometimes break into violent coughing fits and have to use that?
You know that.
You know that. However, 6 years ago, I never saw Jessica look like she was in this much pain. Aniki, is Jessica's asthma always this bad?
It's gotten a lot worse these last few years. It's no problem when she's normal. But when an attack comes suddenly, she can't stop coughing anymore.
Milady, your medicine. Here.
I can't fucking see.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Taking the inhaler from Ken. Jessica used it with a practiced hand. It looked like her throat would still itch for a while, but she had it under control. Are you okay, Jessica? You scared me.
It's no big deal. Don't worry about it.
Beads of sweat covered Jessica's whole body, and she couldn't hide her rough breathing. But it looked like her sudden attack had calmed down for now.
I heard that it's rough breaths, I'll be honest. That's fair.
This disturbance had made the dangerous atmosphere until now seem slightly unfocused. But that's fine. That kind of battle of mutual suspicion is completely unnecessary. When you think about it, finding alibis for each other and looking for the culprit is probably meaningless. After all, we're just powerless, ordinary people. And when the police come tomorrow, they'll definitely employ cutting-edge techniques and investigate the case thoroughly, solving all of the riddles and arresting the culprit.
When the seagulls cry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Perhaps Battler-kun is right after all. Just as Natsuhe Nai-san is suspicious, I can't ignore the fact that I'm suspicious too. Arguing about that now will surely be unproductive. Everything will be fine if we just leave it to the police tomorrow. But don't you want to know too, Battler-kun? Who the culprit is? Don't you want to tell them? Know the pain you feel from losing someone precious to you as soon as possible.
I won't deny that. Even one day would be too long to let the wonderful bastards behind this go. But that doesn't mean I want to suspect one of the 18.
Talking about Rudolph.
Even though I said what I said earlier, I don't even want to suspect you, Aunt Ava. To me, you're an awesome aunt who's always fun and playful. I don't want to trade insults with an aunt like that. I wouldn't want to do that with anyone here. Right? Everyone?
I feel the same way as Battler-kun. It's pointless to trade insults. It's probably just the stress built up because so many people have been crammed in one place for so long.
Probably.
This morning.
It is only natural. It may not be my place to say it, but I think we should all relax as much as possible.
Ava,
It's about to be.
I think we better cool our heads too. The receipt's definitely a big clue for figuring out how Father disappeared. We should tell the police about it when they come.
That's right. Right. I just felt a little triumphant when I figured out that part with the receipt. Of course, it isn't fair to only suspect Natsuhine-san, right? We're just as suspicious. But still, Battler-kun, at least that part about the receipt is real, okay? Don't forget it. And try thinking deeply about what it means one more time, okay?
Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi stood up. It looked like they planned on leaving the parlor.
In the end, it's pointless for us to keep playing detectives. After all, the police will reveal everything anyway.
That's right. Even if we don't play this detective game, the typhoon will pass. And when those lively seagulls return to the harbor, everything will settle itself. That's right. If you think about it, this kind of crime is completely trivial. It will definitely be resolved, even if we do nothing, when the seagulls cry.
Natsuhine-san, I take it you don't want to see my face anymore. I feel the same. If I remember correctly, yesterday you had some rooms prepared for us in the mansion so that we wouldn't need to go back to the guest, right? Those should each have a bath and a toilet, as well as a lock and a chain to secure the door. There's even a bed to lie on, and my husband will be able to watch TV without having to fight with Maria-chan over which channel to watch, right?
Do whatever you want, but make sure to be cautious.
Thank you, Nei-san. And mind your own business. I'll be counting on you to keep an eye on everyone, okay? Because the culprit's definitely here. And Nei-san, make sure you don't forget to keep an eye on yourself, too.
Have you finished taking your parting shots?
Yes, I'm finished. See you, Natsuhine-san. Genji, let us know when it's time for dinner. Until then, we'll lock ourselves in with the chain.
Genji, Cannon, escort them to the guest room.
We'll be fine. I hate shady escorts. In fact, I'd be more comfortable if nobody leaves this room until we reach ours. Let's go, George.
I'll stay here with everyone.
George, the culprit is in this room. Do you plan on staying in a place like that?
Leaving this room will be the same as suspecting one of my relatives. I can't believe anyone in our family is capable of something that horrible.
George, darling, you tell him too.
George is already an adult man. If his code tells him not to leave this room, then it's up to him.
Yeah, we can't make him come.
An adult man. Can't make an adult man come.
Let him do what he wants.
Father.
Father!
Papa.
Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi left. The only voice that called after them was the sound of the rain.
It's not a voice, bro.
When the rain cries.
It's rain in Japanese.
Rain.
The parlor was
I think
buried
Ame.
beneath the savage atmosphere.
It's a fucking
When I looked at the clock, I was surprised to find that it was already evening. Had we really spent that much time worrying about needless things, talking with each other, fighting with each other? Feeling bored, I started scratching my head at my head when Maria and I made eye contact. I was a little surprised, since I thought she was completely immersed in the TV. I believe it now. Ooh? The letter, the murders, everything. It was all Beatrice. In fact, I almost feel like begging her to come out and take credit for it all. I want it to be the work of the 19th person. Otherwise, the 18 of us will have to keep on suspecting each other. I think believing in a 19th person is better than that. Bringing grandfather outside without opening the doors or windows must be a piece of cake for Beatrice, right? Maria, after taking a single short breath, hung her head and then raised her face again. That's right. Locking a door is useless against a witch. Beatrice is familiar with all 72 demons. The 33rd ranked, Gap, gives the power to instantly carry the desired person to any location. To her, taking a person out of any closed room isn't hard at all, you see? Witches sure are incredible. Tell her, if she feels like committing another crime, do it in a way that no human could. And make me believe that a 19th person, no, a witch exists. Okay. If I meet her, I'll tell her. Crap. Nothing's made sense to me for a while now. Just when I want to believe in a 19th person, I deny it. And just when I want to believe there are only 18 people, I deny that too. Even though I want there to be more than just the 18 people here, I can't accept the existence of that 19th person. In short, even though there are more than 18 people, there are less than 19 people. The number of people in this mansion is 19 greater than x greater than 18. So the number of people can't be represented by an integer. However,
18.5.
it's impossible for there to be anything after the decimal point. You shouldn't be able to show the number of people with anything but an integer. And yet, 19 is greater than x greater than 18.
Well, if the 3/5 color myself lies.
How do you explain the fraction less than 1? It's no wonder. The 19th person was something that couldn't be seen. That's why, since you can only write the number of people as an integer, you couldn't see that person. The witch cannot be seen, because Beatrice has no body. Therefore, she is invisible. Is there a 19th person, or not? Does the witch exist, or not? 19 greater than x greater than 18. The witch exists somewhere in that x. Jesus. Fuck.
Okay, what time is it?
Well, clock getting bigger.
Clock is fucking huge. It's
Why is the clock huge?
7 p.m. in the game, and it is
Why is the clock
2:45
huge?
in real life.
Oh my god.
Yep.